And welcome back to my channel. In today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Sideswipe. This is probably one of the most highly anticipated figures from this wave 5 of Deluxe Class releases. As always, we'll take a quick look at the packaging and the backdrop that this figure comes with, and then we'll take a detailed look at the figure himself. Taking a look at the packaging, as you can see, you've got a really nice CG render of Sideswipe there. It states that he's Studio Series. He's from Transformers Dark of the Moon and that he is a Hasbro and Takara Tomy collaboration. The side of the packaging has another CG render of Sideswipe. I believe this is from Revenge of the Fallen, but still looking extremely faithful to how he looked in Dark of the Moon. The back of the packaging showcases the figure in both the robot mode, the vehicle mode, states that he's from the Dreads standoff, shows some of the other figures in the assortment, as well as a brief bio. Sideswipe backs up Ironhide in the head-to-head against the Dreads, one of the best scenes in Transformers Dark of the Moon. The other side of the packaging has yet again another close-up CG render of Sideswipe, states he's the Deluxe Class Studio Series and that he is figure number 29. As with all of the Studio Series figures, the backdrop that Sideswipe includes is from one of his more memorable scenes in Dark of the Moon, that being the Mexican standoff. This is a very faithful recreation to the background that we see the Autobots and Decepticons fighting in that really awesome battle. As with all of these figures, you can just prop the figure in there for a more dynamic display option. And here we have the figure out of his packaging and as he comes packaged in his robot mode. Now this is an absolutely fantastic Deluxe Class figure. This is probably one of my most favourite Deluxe figures from the entirety of the Studio Series. I just think that the paint applications, the overall look of the robot mode, integration of his swords as well as the guns are really cool. He's packed with articulation, and due to his abstract design, he has fantastic stability, which is something that I was not expecting on a character that rolls around on essentially roller skates. Sideswipe comes with two blasters. These are the exact same blasters that we see him use in the Mexican standoff. As you can see, they are identical. They've got some nice silver and black paint applications throughout to highlight some of the finer details in the sculpt. And overall, they're a really nice looking sculpt and very faithful to what we see in the Mexican standoff scene. In terms of weapon storage for these, they do just simply plug into Sideswipe's hands, just like so. Or alternatively, if you wish to actually incorporate them onto the figure when you're not using them, there are some small slots here that the tabs will just peg into and they will just tab in, and there is another one on the other side if you wish not to use the blasters. Sideswipe also includes a pair of his signature blades that we see him use throughout Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon. These have been sculpted impeccably well and have had a really nice silver paint application applied to the front of them. The back of them is just grey plastic, but nonetheless it's not unsculpted and still looks really nice. In order to equip them onto the figure, he does have some slots in the back of his hands that these tabs will just slide into and tab them into place just like so. Do the same process on the other side, and there you have Sideswipe equipped with his blades, and this is a fantastic look for our very memorable character from the first trilogy of live action Transformers movies. With accessories now out of the way, I want to begin taking a look at some of the details. Starting off with the head, as you can see, his head has been beautifully recreated and is very accurate to what we see in the movie. As you can see, they have opted to give him the mouth look instead of giving him the mouth plated look that we saw with some of the Human Alliance figures. As you can see, his eyes have been picked out in a really nice blue paint, and the entire mouth guard and mouthpiece has been painted in a gunmetal colour. Really breaks up the sculpt and makes it a lot more defined than if they were to just leave it in grey. As you can see, his head has been fantastically redone. He does in fact have light piping. As you can see, the back of his head is translucent. However, seeing as they've painted the eyes blue, you can't get any light shone throughout. One of the major details aspects of this figure is how well painted it is. As you can see, there is silver paint application throughout the entirety of the figure. It does become slightly more scarce when you get into the thighs, but nonetheless, the distribution of different plastics more than enough makes up for it, and I think that this is a really nice, very premium looking figure. As you can see, the torso too has been detailed impeccably well. Got some nice mechanical sculpted in detail that's been picked out in a gunmetal grey, and you've even got the Corvette Stingray logo sculpted and painted in the centre of his chest. The upper arms too have been detailed fantastically well, as well as the forearms. Moving down to the legs, these two have been picked out in some fantastically nice looking detail. Even when you turn the figure around, as you can see, you've got the pistons protruding out of the back of the legs. So just overall a really nice attention to detail. Turning to the figure's articulation, this is what surprised me the most about this figure. He is completely packed with articulation. The head is on a ball joint, so it can look up that far as well as down. It can also look side to side as well as left to right. These chest pieces here are on ball joints, so you can hinge them in a variety of different ways to your pleasing. These sections here are two on ball joints and on swivels, so if you wish, you can have these sections stick out. However, I never remember Sideswipe having these bits in the movie, so I tend to just fold them up just like that, but it is definitely a display option that you can do. The arms are on ball joints, so they can go forwards and backwards and out to the sides. There's also a hinge due to transformation, so if you wish, you can lower them and raise them. There is a very tight swivel just above the elbow, as well as a 90-degree bend at the elbow. Due to transformation, the hands can swivel inwards, however that won't give you much in terms of displaying the figure. So, to my surprise, he does in fact have a waist joint, which I was extremely surprised about, especially considering that the majority of the vehicle mode does stack on the back of the figure. This does not hinder the articulation of this waist articulation joint at all, which I'm extremely surprised. The legs are completely packed with articulation. The legs can kick forwards that far as well as backwards that far. There's also a rotation at the thigh, however it is extremely stiff. His legs are on multiple joints, so here you've got one joint and then there you've got another joint, so they're in fact actually double jointed. This one's mainly due to transformation, but nonetheless it's definitely a really nice incorporation of using some of the transformation joints to give the figure a more variety of articulation. Now this turns to my next point, how stable this figure is. Considering this figure is essentially on roller skates, he's not going anywhere. As you can see, I can just plonk him down and he doesn't go anywhere. If I put him in a dynamic pose, he will completely withhold that pose as well, as you can see. So he's really, really stable, and I really like how Hasbro and Takara Tomy have actually designed the feet so that his stability isn't a complete nightmare, much like we saw with some of the earlier Sideswipe figures. For some size comparisons, here is Studio Series Sideswipe along with the core Revenge of the Fallen team. As you can see, he's roughly the same size as Bumblebee, which I'm not sure is entirely accurate. As you can see, he's significantly smaller than Ratchet, so maybe Ratchet is a little bit too big or Sideswipe is a little bit too small. But taking Ratchet out of the equation, I definitely think he scales really nicely with Ironhide and definitely fairly nicely with Optimus Prime. Of course, no Studio Series Sideswipe that is based on the Mexican standoff review would be complete without comparing him to some of the Decepticon dreads. As you can see, I think that this makes for a fantastic set. This is Berserker from the Last Night, however he's a fantastic substitute for a Studio Series crankcase. As you can see, he's significantly smaller than the dreads as he really was in the movie, and comparing him next to Ironhide, I just think that the scale is absolutely perfect, and I'm so thankful to Hasbro that we finally have a full set of figures that recreates one of the most iconic scenes from Dark of the Moon. So overall, I do believe that just about covers all of my points for the robot mode. If you couldn't tell already, I'm extremely impressed with the overall aesthetic of this robot mode. The articulation and the paint applications are absolutely fantastic, and I love the weapon integration. In order to start off with transformation, essentially what you're going to want to do is take the hands and fold them inwards, just like so. Pull these sections down. They are on a hinge joint, so just pull them down. Come to the back of the figure and just detach this section, just like this. There is a translucent tab that does peg into the back of this, and then what you're going to then want to do is take this section here and just bring this upwards and swivel it around, trying to get these pieces out the way, just like so, and lift this section up. What you'll then want to do is take these and just kind of angle those outwards, and then take this whole section here and just bring it upwards. As you can see, it will completely untab and will allow you to bring this all the way up so that you can bring this section upwards, and you can begin to line up the chest pieces with the rear end of the vehicle. Just take these and move those out of the way, just like so. Take this section here and rotate it around as well. Come back to the arms, and now with these pulled all the way backwards, we're going to want to have them in a situated position much like this. We're then going to want to take these blasters, and as you can see, there are tabs there. They'll plug onto the same slots in the hands that the blades do. So this is a really nice form of weapon storage. So just take these and plug them in, and then just essentially collapse this in just like this. What you'll then want to do is take these sections here and just line those upwards, line those up with the back section. What you'll then want to do is come to the feet and lift these sections upwards, lift that up as well, and on the opposite side, and then essentially take this, and as you can see here, there is this hinge here. You're going to want to hinge this backwards upon itself, just like so. Come to these pieces here and line those up and bring them towards the front of the vehicle, and then tab them into place, tab them together just like this. Collapse the hood section and try and get all of these translucent tabs into their respective slots on both sides. Now we can come into integrating the battle swords. Now in order to do this, as you can see here, there is actually a tab that will slide into this slot here. So what you'll want to do is line this up as best as you can, and get this in up, and then tab that in, and then lift this upwards to try and get those tabs to lock into the top sections, just like this. Repeat the same process on the opposite side. So take this and tab that in, lock that in, and there you have Sideswipe more or less in his Corvette Stingray alt mode. And here we have Sideswipe in his vehicle mode. Now this is definitely where the really nice premium paint does shine through. As you can see, the entirety of the vehicle mode has been done in this silver paint, and I really like Hasbro and Takara Tomi's design choice in making all the bits in the vehicle mode silver so that when they distribute into the robot mode, they don't look too out of place. As you can see, we've got some really nice detailing, such as the steering wheel and the two seats that we see him acquire in the Dark of the Moon movie. Unfortunately, the rims are not painted silver. That would have been a really nice finishing touch, as they do look like a slight eyesore when compared next to the rest of the silver paint. As you can see, he does fold up fairly nicely underneath as well, and from the transformation segment you could tell that this isn't necessarily the most complex transformation, but it's definitely involved enough to make it interesting. You can see the grille has been picked out in a black paint, and you've got a really nicely sculpted in Corvette Stingray insignia that has been painted really nicely. The vents too have been picked out in a black paint. And turning the figure around, the rear headlights have too been picked out in a red paint. You've got the spoiler and details such as the side view mirrors. So overall, it's a really, really nice looking alt mode. Now, one of my major gripes with this figure is due to these little tabs here. This figure does not roll on the ground at all. I have tried to push them in as far as they will go, and I'm afraid I will snap the clear plastic. So I do just think that this was a major design flaw on Hasbro and Takara Tomi's part. Perhaps I need to transform it a couple of times. As you can see, this wheel does roll, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. But overall, that is a shame if that is how the figure has been made. For a quick size comparison, here is Sideswipe next to two Deluxe class Bumblebees, this one being the World War II Bumblebee, and this one being the Retro Rock Bumblebee. As you can see, when comparing it to the Retro Rock Bumblebee, he is roughly the same size as that. He does slope down here, but in terms of length, he is basically exactly the same. And when comparing him to the World War II Bumblebee, he is quite a bit bigger than that World War II Bumblebee in his vehicle mode. So overall, he's a really nice looking Deluxe class figure. So there you have it. That is my review on the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe class Sideswipe. If you couldn't tell already, I am extremely impressed with this figure. I think Hasbro and Takara have taken their time to really give us the most definitive Sideswipe to date. I think the robot mode is as accurate as you can be. I'm so grateful that they've actually nailed the engineering design for the feet so that the stability isn't compromised. I love how they've managed to integrate both his blades as well as his guns, and I really like the overall paint scheme in both the robot mode and the vehicle mode. The transformation isn't too complex nor too simple, and it's just the right level of complexity so that you can go back and forth without getting too frustrated with it. The vehicle mode is definitely where the paint applications shine. I love the metallic silver paint that they've applied over the top. It definitely really does give you this premium definitive finish on the figure, and I love some of the more intricate detailing in the vehicle mode, such as the steering wheel and the two chairs, considering that Sideswipe was actually a convertible in Dark of the Moon. Overall, I highly recommend this figure. I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please let me know down in the comment section below. I have got my review of the Studio Series Barricade coming up very soon, so please subscribe to stay tuned for that review. Thanks for watching.